Did Epstein really have a temple just to impress his pedo buddies, or is there something more at play here?
Well, to me, it's the the temple and that island, Epstein Island. It's entirely possible, but as I said previously, it's important to approach these things with or based on the presumption that you're not sure of what the truth is. So you entertain the possibility or any possibility that you come across, but you don't necessarily believe or emotionally invest yourself into any of those possibilities, right? You need to be able to do that if you're going to be, someone of above average intelligence anyway, or able to just, analyze things objectively. But if you look at the Epstein Island story, I'm not going to get into all the details because we're on YouTube, but it serves a practical purpose, because if you can get these very what you want to do, right? If you're a subversive, you're looking to gain influence in a country that you don't belong to. It's not your country. It's not your nation, right? And what you want to do is you want to engage people who are in that nation who are already very influential, people that make movies, people that host popular radio shows, people that work in banks, people that own schools and churches and stuff like that, right? And you want to look for those sorts of people who kind of have big egos, the kind of people where you tell them they're really good and really smart, and you can see that they lap it up, right? Also, people who are a little bit naive, the sort of people who will kind of believe anything, believe in ideas of their own greatness, ego and naivety, right? So you identify those people, and then you kind of rope them into your club, or you help to bring them under your influence, right? And the Epstein Island thing, it serves practical purpose for someone trying to gain influence over members of specific nations, influential members of nations, actors, politicians, movie makers, and so forth. Because once you get these people in some sort of sex club where they're engaging in illegal sexual activities, well, then you've got them by blackmail, right? They basically have to stay true to your club, and they have to bite their tongues about what's really going on and what powers or influences they might really serve, because it can be made known to everybody what they've done on that island, right? So it's a practical blackmail method. It's a very ruthless one, but it's effective, and it would be effective if it was true, right? So that's the way I look at it. I'm like, well, what practical purpose would that serve? Does it have a practical purpose? Usually, if there's some sort of conspiracy or theory or some sort of information like that going around, you got to ask yourself, like, well, is that practical? Who stands to benefit from that? Does someone stand to benefit, and how do they stand to benefit? Is it in a big way? If it is, then the theory is probably true, or it has more. You have more reason to suspect that it might be true. Yeah, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but that's my overall take. What do you think, Joel?
I do believe that demonic possession and this kind of thing is real, based upon my personal experiences, and just thinking about motivations for some of the most like dark and depraved and heinous things that people do. I think that can only really be explained by nefarious forces, within the unconscious mind, within the subconscious mind, and so on, kind of impacting them, impacting people. Exactly what metaphysics you want to use to explain that, I'm not going to go into some speculative theory there. I don't really understand. I don't really have like a fully formed view of this type of stuff. And if I go into what I do think about it metaphysically, people are going to get bored and they're going to log off because it's going to require some philosophizing.
I'll provide an example for what you're talking about. You go to a suburban train station in Australia, and what are you going to see? You're going to see obnoxious people, semi-homeless, using a combination of drugs, and they might yell out to you. They might jump in front of you. They might try to get your attention. They might try to rattle you somehow, right, when you walk past these people. And why do they do that? Well, I've always seen these people as imp spirits. And what's an imp spirit? An imp's kind of like a sprite or a low-level demon that just wants to cause trouble. They'll harm you if they can, but that's not really what they want. They mostly just want to get a rise out of you. They want to cause trouble, because you got to ask yourself, what would compel a human being to just try to annoy another human being they don't even know, or try to get a rise out of them, or to try to anger them, right? That's kind of like it's unnatural behavior. And these people who do a lot of drinking, take a lot of drugs, and don't really care about anything in life, that sort of exposure to drugs and alcohol, it's entirely possible that it opens up their spirit to being occupied by something, some otherworldly force. And I think drugs can do that. It's entirely possible. Like I said, I don't really believe in anything. This is just a passing thought and theory that's occurred to me. But when I've observed objectively the behavior of these drug addicts at train stations, I can't think of anything but little imp sprite spirits jumping around trying to annoy and piss everybody off. And obviously there's different types of demons, probably some much more dangerous and twisted than others. The imps are probably less dangerous, and you don't need to worry about them so much. They're more just annoying. But that's just one example of what you're talking about, I guess.
Yeah, but I think like when thinking about what could naturally compel someone to rape 3-year-old children or whatever, it doesn't really make sense to me without thinking in terms of like demonic possession, or these people who are getting their dicks chopped off and dressing up as women and so on. It's just so hard to empathize with any kind of organic, organic, physiological, conventional explanation for any of this stuff. Additionally, if you study the occult, or if you study Talmudic Judaism, you will find that they engage in all kinds of crazy and kooky rituals, sacrifices. They try to communicate with entities. Whether you believe those entities exist or not, these people believe that they exist, and they do rituals to try and interact with them in various ways. And this is actually a human universal. Like, atheism is a very modern invention. Pretty much all cultures ever have notions of spirits, of entities that they interact with through various rituals. That's true. It's a universal human truth. Only kind of modern secular society doesn't believe in that stuff. It's a very new thing. So the question is, why did human beings believe in spiritual entities for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years?
Sorry, I wouldn't say that most people don't believe it. Most people just don't understand it. And I myself don't understand it, because I don't think if these things do exist, I don't think they exist on our plane. They don't exist in the way we exist, and therefore we don't understand them. It's difficult for us to understand them. It's probably a more accurate way to explain it, that not necessarily, people don't spend their days thinking about demons and otherworldly spirits, right? But I don't think it's because they don't believe it. It's just that it's not understandable to them.
Yeah. So, I do think that there is. I think there's more to the temples and the occult practices and so on of elites than simply they're just pedos and it's all a lot. And also I think people use the kind of ritual iconography and the ritual practices and so on to activate the sense of mystique in people, to manipulate them as well. So I think that's definitely an element. Think about like the Freemasons and so on, and how all the kind of, if you research Freemasonry and all the rituals that you do to go through the phases and so on, it's about creating mystique. It's about creating this sense that there is some secret knowledge that they hold and some access to some secret force that they have, which you don't, and you need to kind of essentially be psychologically manipulated and subordinated to these people in order to kind of gain access to that power and that knowledge. And that's that's a key kind of underlying component to elite organization.
They definitely represent, well, not represent, but they protect not knowledge itself, but interpretation of reality. For example, the Freemason understanding of language is a method for conforming the external world to one's inner will. What that means is, when you speak words, you don't speak words because those words express what you feel, or because you're trying to effectively communicate with somebody, barter, trade. You're speaking to reach an outcome that you desire. You're trying to produce a result in the other people around you, and consequently in the world around you. You're trying to conform the external world to your inner will with the words you speak. What I mean is, you have to understand that the Freemasons think of words as magic and as spells, and it's woven into our culture, actually. And this is a subject I'll talk about in great detail in one of my own streams, because it's something that is extremely fascinating. Words have a magical effect on people because they change our perspective of reality, and they can shape how we understand things. Even the language that we understand places certain limitations and boundaries on how well we can understand things, which is why they say control the language, control the people, right? But to demonstrate how words might have magical effects, if you watching this now just are in a quiet place and you're clear of any distractions, and I was to say to you, crystal clear lake, rippling like blue velvet, behind which green grassy hills, and on the lake in front of you, a white duck. Now, if you're paying attention, images are appearing in your mind of a lake, green hills, and a duck. But all I'm doing is spitting noise from behind my teeth. I'm just humming and ahhing and spitting noise out. And that's causing you to think of images in your head. And that, my friends, is an example of magic. And magic has many different expressions and forms. But as I said, it's woven into our culture. And an example of that is when you are summoned to appear before a magistrate, right? That's how a magistrate is low level of court in Australia, right? And a magistrate is a lower level judge. The magistrates wear their robes, right? And they summon you to appear. And what they do, the way they see it from their perspective, is they mail out a piece of paper with some symbols and shapes on it, and that official little stamp of theirs. That goes to your letterbox, and it says that you must go to that location, that courthouse, on that date and time, right? You must appear before them on that date and time. So all they do is squiggle that little series of symbols on the paper and whiz that paper away into the ether. And then on that date and time, poof, as if by magic, you appear before them, right? Because you understand the language, you respect the power, whatever it is. You can explain it however you want, but the way they see it is as if by magic you've appeared before them. And that's why we spell words with letters, right? Words are spelled. They are spells. And that's how it's understood by certain classes of people like the Freemasons. That's why you need to understand they don't speak because they're trying to explain something to you. They're speaking to try to get you to think what they want you to think. They're speaking to try to get you to see what they want you to see. Right? That's why they're speaking. It's for a purpose, to get what they want from you. Right? That's how they're trained. That's how they train each other. I'll get into other various forms of magics, like in one of my own streams. Like I said, this fascinates me personally. It's